Good evening. Thanks for joining us on India Business Hour. I'm Shireen Bhan, and here's wishing all our viewers a very happy Diwali. Markets end somewhat 2078 on a positive note after a volatile session. The Nifty is down over 1% since last Diwali, but it's outperformed most of its peers. The mid-cap index lost just over 1%, but the small-cap index down over 12%. Telecom and retail businesses deliver a strong second quarter for Reliance Industries. Jio reports margins above 50%, revenue growth above 20% for the third straight quarter. Hindustan Unilever delivers a mixed bag. Revenue and volumes largely in line with estimates, but inflation eats into margins even as lower tax outgo boosts profits. Boris Johnson and Rishi Sunak are leading the race to become the next Prime Minister of the UK. A new poll shows support for the Conservatives among the British public is down to 14%, which is the lowest in polling history. Ukraine's President Zelensky warns that Russia is planning to attack a hydroelectric dam in Kherson, which can cause serious flooding in the region. The US claims Iran is directly engaged in the war by providing drones and technical support to Russian pilots to bomb civilian targets. As he attempts to gather funds for a $44 billion acquisition of Twitter, Elon Musk has told prospective investors that he plans to cut 75% of Twitter's workforce, according to the Washington Post. But Twitter's management circulates an internal memo among employees saying there are no plans for any company-wide layoffs. And will this Diwali bring cheer for the retail industry? We take stock of the mood across the key business districts in Delhi and Mumbai. Well, let's start with the market action. It has been a positive close for somewhat 2078. The Sensex and the Nifty finally closing in the green after a fairly volatile session. But it's also been a solid week for the stock markets, with both the Sensex and the Nifty gaining over 2%, which is the biggest weekly rally that we've seen in the last 3 months. For the year, that is somewhat to somewhat. The Nifty is down 1%, the mid-cap index is down over 1%. The small-cap index is, however, down over 12%. Nigel D'Souza standing by with the market performance from last Diwali to date. Nigel.
You know, a lot of things got thrown at us, whether it was COVID, the post-COVID impact as well, particularly in China, whether it was the hawkish Fed, the Reserve Bank of India as well was hiking rates. The Russia-Ukraine war, that's what put pressure on inflation. Globally, you saw inflation prices that spiked up, crude oil prices up by close to around 20%, all this in the, in the last year or so. And high inflation scenario, still, in fact, the Nifty managed to hold on. While supply-side issues as well was another worry. And the FIs, as we were just discussing, well, they sold close to around $30 billion, and yet the Nifty didn't fall apart. That's telling you the kind of participation we had from the retail audience as well out here. And in the currency market, well, there was a relative outperformance out there because the rupee depreciated, yes, by around 10%, but the dollar index itself moved from around 95 all the way to around 114 or so. And if you compare India with the rest of the globe, the US markets were under pressure, the European markets as well were under pressure. They were down anything between 5 to around 20%. And even some of those, other Asian markets, they saw a lot of pressure, barring, the Latin market. The Brazilian index was a relative outperformer, and the Nifty as well was a close second, with being more or less flattish in the last 1 year or so. Within India, FMCG did very well, auto sector as well did very well, in the last 1 year. And the PSU banking names, they were something that did pretty well. IT did see some pressure points, and the small cap index as well was down. Let's run you through some of those big movers then on the Nifty itself. New entrant, you had, a couple of those names in there. But first, the losers. Some of those stocks from the IT pack, well, they were under pressure. You had Divi's Laboratory as well that was under pressure. And in fact, the commodity-related names, whether it was a BPCL in there, Tata Steel, Ultratech, all of them did see some selling. And HDFC Life, a distinct underperformer out there. But some big gainers, Adani Enterprises, well, it's made its way into the Nifty, and that's given you big returns. And just take a look at the screen. Some of those rare entities, Coal India, Power Grid, as well as NTPC, PSUs in there, that were relative outperformers. I don't remember the last time that happened. The Royal Enfield as well from the Auto Pack did pretty well. But there were some losers, and they are all up for you on the screen. Some of them seem to have lost their way. Godrej Properties, you had India Bulls Housing Finance, IEX, India Mart, some of these stocks, well, they ran away a goodish bit, and then they came in for some profit taking. But let's wind this down with some of those big gainers. HAL out of nowhere, the defense play, TVS Motors as well continues to run ahead, and a couple of those PSU banking names in there as well, up and about in the last 1 year or so. But guys, it's still a happy Diwali because despite all the challenges that we had, the Nifty was still more or less flattish. Back to you guys.
Nigel, many thanks and wish you a very happy Diwali. That's Samvat to Samvat, the market report card for you. But the big earnings today, Reliance Industries reporting its second quarter numbers. Our research team is here to break the numbers down for us. Sonia, let me start with you for the overall numbers as well as the performance coming in from Jio.
Well, thanks a lot for that. It was a mixed bag this time around. So very strong consumer-facing businesses, both Jio and retail had a good showing this time. But there was weakness definitely in the oil to chemical segment. But the consumer-facing businesses now contribute about 50% to the overall EBITDA. So in that context, it was not such a bad showing at all. The consolidated revenues came in at 2.3 lakh crores versus 2.1 lakh crores same last quarter. The EBITDA has fallen to 31,224 crores versus 37,997 crores, largely because of the weakness in the oil to chemical segment. The EBITDA margins as well have fallen to about 13.6%, and the consolidated net profits were down about 24% quarter-on-quarter. But Rel Jio had a good showing this time. The revenue growth came in above 20% year-on-year, and the margins came in above 50% for the third consecutive quarter. Even the average revenue per user has been increasing for 6 straight quarters now, and the total subscribers went up by about 1.8% compared to last quarter. In fact, if you look at Reliance Retail as well, Mangalam will tell us more about that. But all in all, a good showing coming in from the consumer-facing businesses. Mangalam, over to you.
Good showing coming in from the consumer-facing businesses, and retail was a testament to that. It was an extremely strong quarter. The street was expecting a good quarter. The company delivered a better quarter. We saw an 11% growth in the retail revenue, just shy of that 65,000 crore mark on the top line for this quarter, and that makes it a record revenue quarter. And not just the revenue, in fact, we saw an EBITDA growth of almost 14.5% also. Margins improved by about 20 basis points quarter on quarter, and on that base, that accounts for a lot. Both the revenue as well as the operational performance was above what analysts were expecting. Nomura's estimate on the revenue was 62,000 crores, and on that of their EBIT was 4,200 odd crores. That's not all. The company added close to around 800 stores during the quarter. The footfalls were much higher than quarter one and also 23% higher than pre-COVID levels. All the other things doing extremely well for them. So that's about the consumer-facing businesses. Not too sure about the way oil to chemicals performed though, Sonal.
Yes, can't say the same for oil to chemicals business. But Mangalam, this was largely expected this time around because of the shutdowns that the company took, the maintenance shutdowns, that is. There was a windfall tax impact as well, and also the energy markets were quite volatile. So this time around, for oil to chemicals business, it is a revenue decline of 1.2%. EBITDA was down 40% in line with estimates, leading to a margin decline of 500 basis points. The company says production was lower due to planned turnaround of primary and secondary SEZ refinery units. Polymer margins declined between 6 to 32%, and that is largely because of the spreads coming down as well. Lower demand in China led to decline in product prices as well. So all in all, they saw an impact because of windfall taxes, shutdown in their refineries, and lower product prices as well. But on the flip side, if we talk about the oil and gas business, that did really well, much better than what the street was working with. Revenue growth of 6.2% on a quarter-on-quarter basis. Margins, they expanded 700 basis points. And a company says from the third cluster in the KG-D6 basin, the production will commence by the end of this year. Then Reliance will contribute 30% of the total India's gas production. So it looks good as far as the oil and gas business is concerned. But oil to chemicals business, weakness as expected. But that's about the oil to chemicals and oil and gas business. With that, Shireen, it's back to you.
Well, that's Reliance. And staying with earnings, Hindustan Unilever has delivered a mixed bag. Revenue and volumes largely in line with estimates, but high inflation has hit margins. Shilpa joins us now with the breakup. Shilpa, take us through the numbers as well as the management's commentary.
Well, HUL reported revenues at a 4% volume growth in line with expectations, but there was a mild miss on profits and margins, and this was because of inflation. Now, the company did indicate, while that there has been some softening in crude prices, overall commodity inflation is still significantly elevated, especially prices of other raw materials like sugar, cereals, etc., and a strengthening US dollars only adding to this. Now, from a category point of view, home care outperformed this quarter. Beauty and personal care saw moderate 11% 8% growth, but a slowdown in foods and refreshments category, which saw only about a 4% growth. Now, HUL's top brass said that the company continues to be cautiously optimistic. Now, the cautiousness comes from a continued rural slowdown and inflation that's impacting volumes, but the company has outperformed the market, which is still seeing negative volumes. But September, it says, has been a particularly good month, and that's where HUL says the optimism comes from. And with the current quarter also being the festive season, the company will also be stepping up its advertising and promotion spends. Now, we spoke to Sanjeev Mehta and Ritesh Tiwari earlier in the day on inflation and the outlook. Listen in.
Once there are very clear evidence of the commodity prices softening, and we as manufacturers, producers and brand owners will correct the price value equation by giving more value to the consumer. That is the time when the volume you should start seeing. But during this period, like Ritesh has rightly said, the growth is going to be price-led.
Well, that's Sanjeev Mehta of HUL. From one FMCG company to another, ITC reported its numbers late last night. Second quarter numbers were higher than street estimates, with revenue growth in double digits across all segments. The hotel and cigarettes business led the growth. The company's standalone profit was up nearly 21% year-on-year. EBITDA was up nearly 40% compared with the previous year. Real estate player DLF has recorded a 26% jump in net profit, while margin has expanded to 33.5%, but revenue and EBITDA have fallen year-on-year. Meanwhile, the board has approved a fundraise of up to 1,500 crore rupees. We will head into a break, but on the other side, Boris Johnson and Rishi Sunak are leading the race to become the next Prime Minister of the UK. That and more when we return. Well, Google has issued a response after the Competition Commission imposed a penalty of more than 1,300 crore rupees for anti-competitive practices. In a statement, Google says, and I quote, "CCI's decision is a major setback for Indian consumers and businesses, opening serious security risks for Indians and raising the cost of mobile devices for Indians. We will review our decision and evaluate the next steps." End of quote. The CCI's order had said that Google leveraged its dominant position in the online search and app store for Android to protect its in-house app. CCI has also barred Google from offering incentives to smartphone makers for carrying its search services. News in the aviation space. Air India has appointed Henry Donoghue to head the Safety, Security and Quality Department. Donoghue will take over the role from the 7th of November. He's extensively worked with various international carriers and has also served on the IATA Safety Committee and Flight Safety Foundation Board of Governance. And news for SpiceJet coming in as relief this Diwali. Aviation regulator, the DGC, has removed the 50% cap on SpiceJet's flights for the winter schedule. SpiceJet's flights were restricted due to safety violations. From the 30th of October now, the airline will be able to operate with full capacity. The low-cost carrier can operate nearly 3,200 flights per week till the 25th of March 2023. The Central Board of Indirect Taxes and Customs has extended the due date for filing the GSTR 3B returns for September by a day till the 21st of October. The department also received complaints regarding the system being slow. Earlier this month, technical glitches had led the Income Tax Department to extend the due date for filing the tax audit reports for fiscal 22 by 7 days to the 7th of October. The Revenue Department has raised the red flag on possible tax evasion by offshore online betting platforms. The department's analysis shows that offshore apps are making huge profits from consumers and clients from India. The department is in talks with the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology to ban those who are not paying taxes. The big global story, UK, which is grappling with an economic crisis, will now see a leadership change yet again after Prime Minister Liz Truss bowed out of office after a very tumultuous 45-day term. What's interesting is Boris Johnson, whose resignation earlier this year catapulted Truss to the UK's Prime Minister's post for the shortest term ever, is leading the leadership race. Rishi Sunak, who lost out to Truss in the Tory leadership battle, is also in the reckoning. Candidates who wish to run for the next Prime Minister will have to garner support of 100 MPs by 2 p.m. on Monday. Sanjay Suri gets us the latest. Sanjay.
Intense lobbying underway as one would expect, but we are beginning to approach some indication of a likely scenario. We have reports from very senior sources in the Conservative Party that Boris Johnson's team and Rishi Sunak's teams are in talks currently with a view to some sort of agreement over this election. And of course, we do not have the contours of that yet, but we are likely to fairly soon. As of now, the position of support within the Conservative Party is 60 for Boris Johnson, 57 for Rishi Sunak, 20 for Penny Mordaunt. Penny Mordaunt looks like she will now drop out. It will finally be theoretically between Boris Johnson and Rishi Sunak, which is why some talks are on to arrive at some sort of understanding. Clearly, Boris Johnson is having a go, and if it really comes down to two, it is almost certainly Boris Johnson, because were it to get to a contest and were it to be a divided parliament, it still then would go to the Conservative Party members for the final say. And if it comes to that, surely Boris Johnson will win, and surely Rishi Sunak could see that, and he has seen the expressions of support for Boris Johnson all through the hustings in the last round of election. Some sort of agreement is being worked out, which means that we could very well have a Prime Minister in place even before the deadline of Friday, the 28th of October. It, of course, will be rather interesting to see what kind of agreement, if any, we have to underline, can be worked out between Boris and Rishi. But it is now one or the other, and the indications are that it will be Boris with some sort of inclusion for Rishi Sunak, perhaps as Chancellor, as street logic would suggest. We don't have any definite information on that yet, but we will have a very much clearer picture very soon.
Well, Sanjay Suri, many thanks for joining us. I mean, the thought that Boris Johnson is back once again in the reckoning, it is, as they say, a day is too long in politics. Now, retailers across Indian cities are upbeat about Diwali, lighting up their finances. A pulse check at key retail markets across the capital and Mumbai show that sales are picking up, even though shopkeepers are unable to offer deep discounts as there has been a spike in inflation. Abhimanyu Sharma and Shilpa Ranipeta report from Delhi and Mumbai.
As we approach Diwali after 2 years of the COVID pandemic, people who had gotten accustomed to e-commerce are coming out into markets to see and feel what they had missed when they were confined inside their houses. The thrill of seeing, feeling and buying gifts for their near and dear ones, as well as shopping for their own selves, is thronging people back into markets and is increasing the footfall of markets, while the trend of niche gifting as well as travel during the festive season is catching up. Here is what traders and shoppers from two of Delhi's most iconic markets, Khan Market and Chandni Chowk, had to say.
The market is humming with activity, which is a very good sign, and most of the products are doing well. Overall, it has been much better than the previous years. Other than sweets and biscuits and also eatables, people are into other things, like somebody is presenting watches, somebody is giving some electronic.
People are buying a lot from niche markets, artisanal markets that have come up over the weekends, and I think definitely there is that sense of coming together. You don't just want to come together online, you want to meet and greet.
Tourism is booming, particularly domestic tourism, because as you must be seeing, the hotel rates and the airfares have skyrocketed.
Even as gifting experiences is becoming increasingly popular, buying decorations and lights is still the mainstay of Diwali shopping. These lanes of Old Delhi's Chandni Chowk are chock-a-block, indicating that the slowdown is behind us, but inflation has clearly impacted buying behavior.
3 साल पहले जिस तरीके से काम निकलता है उस तरीके के उस हिसाब से 80% अभी काम है, पूरा वो 100 के 100% अभी नहीं आ पाया।
सामान देखो पिछली बार से तो थोड़ा महंगा है, लेकिन सामान की क्वालिटी बढ़िया है। जैसे सामान लोगे आप वैसे पैसे देने पड़ेंगे।
भागीरथ प्लेस में जिस तरीके का आप देख रहे हैं, आदमी चल नहीं सकता है। हर व्यक्ति वो 20 रुपए की भी लाइट खरीदने वाला है, 200 वाला भी है, 2000 वाला भी ले रहा है। भीड़ लगी हुई है। बदलाव ये है कि हर व्यक्ति ये चाहता है कि मैं किस तरीके से, देखिए बजट की लिमिटेशंस हैं, महंगाई बढ़ी है, लोगों की आमदनी नहीं बढ़ी।
Even the normal lighting which we put outside the house, which we call in Hindi laddi, all of the people are asking for Make in India laddi, which is not available right now. because all the suppliers are just selling it by calling it Make in India, but it's not originally Make in India.
We learned from shoppers as well as traders that the effect of inflation is visible across all sections of buyers and has also dented the scope for sellers to give discounts to customers. There is a stated rise in the demand for made in India products, be it for decorative, electronic or non-electronic items. In Delhi with video journalist Rajendra, this is Abhimanyu Sharma for CNBC-TV18.
After 2 years of COVID-19 and the pandemic-related restrictions, this is the first near-normal year of festivities that we're seeing. I'm here at Crawford Market, which is the city's largest wholesale market for gifting and dry fruits. And what I can see is that the crowds are definitely way more than last year. But this has also been a year where we've seen high levels of inflation, making everything more expensive. So this Diwali, are consumers coming out to buy, or is inflation forcing them to tighten their purse strings? Let's get a mood check.
लास्ट ईयर से ज़्यादा हो रहा है सेल और मार्केट में भीड़ भी ज़्यादा है। पिछले साल से 25 से 30% ही बढ़ा है, क्योंकि अभी कैसा रिस्ट्रिक्शन हो गया है। कोरोना से आदमी लोग थोड़ा संभल रहे हैं, कैसा खर्चा करना है क्या है, यानी थोड़ा यानी बढ़ रहा है, आहिस्ता आहिस्ता बढ़ रहा है।
पब्लिक थोड़ा खरीद करने के लिए आगे पीछे कर रहा है, थोड़ा महंगाई बढ़ा इसलिए 20% बढ़ गए, फिर भी लोग खरीद रहे थोड़ा।
Gold jewelry and gold bars are also something that see peak sales during the festive season. And I'm here at Mumbai's jewelry hub, Zaveri Bazaar, that is buzzing with activity as consumers flock stores to buy gold jewelry. Now, last year saw the best ever sales for jewelers in the last 25 years. But the World Gold Council has said that this year, while the sales would be better in the festive season compared to the rest of the year, sales may not be as good as last year. But the picture on ground here suggests otherwise.
जो गत वर्ष की सेल की बात करें तो करीबन ऑन एवरेज 80 टन सोना इस धनतेरस पे और उसके आजू बाजू में 4 दिनों में बिका था। उससे भी ज़्यादा इस बार की तैयारी है, जिसका मुख्यतः कारण है कि एक तो कोविड हट गया है, दूसरा शादियों की भरमार है। करीबन 30 से 35% मेरा अनुमान है कि इतने से ज़्यादा सेल बढ़ेगा, हो सकता है उससे भी ज़्यादा बढ़े।
Retailers are not very cautious enough right now. Now they have become bold to buy the jewelry from us. And being a wholesaler, I would rather say that this has been a great, fantastic year as far as the jewelry sale is concerned.
While experts expect inflation to have some impact on gold buying in smaller towns, Mumbai's Zaveri Bazaar is already seeing bumper sales, not just because of Dhanteras and the festive season, but also because of the upcoming wedding season that is expected to be much larger after 2 years of lull. And this is also aided by relatively lower gold prices. And customers this time are buying more ornaments rather than gold coins, something that's been boosted by the hallmarking norms that came into place last year. In Mumbai, Shilpa Rani Peta.
Well, that is the festive centimeter, and with that, it is time for us to wrap up this edition of India Business Hour. As always, thanks very much for watching. The team that produces your favorite program wishes you a very bright and prosperous Diwali. There they are on your screens. You don't see them very often, but that's the team behind India Business Hour, the evening team at CNBC-TV18, committed team. They work very, very hard and very long hours, so happy Diwali to all of you guys, and you can wish our viewers a happy Diwali as well.
Happy Diwali!
All right, and you see our market experts give their opinion and analysis on the channel every day. For Diwali, they hit all the right notes, and we leave you with this very special interlude. Thanks very much for watching India Business Hour. A happy Diwali to you and your families.
मैं पल दो पल का शायर हूँ, पल दो पल मेरी कहानी है, पल दो पल मेरी हस्ती है, पल दो पल मेरी जवानी है। मैं पल दो पल का शायर हूँ।
But then it's a happy occasion, so we got to sing Zindagi.
एक सफर है सुहाना, यहाँ कल